Today's episode of Dungeon Crawlers Radio is brought to you by Gamers Inn, your one-stop location for all your gaming needs. Located in Lehigh City, Utah, their fun and friendly staff will be more than happy to answer any of your gaming needs. Just remember, Gamers Inn, it's where adventures begin.
It's time to power up.
Autobots, roll out! Broadcasting live from the DCR studio.
Oh yeah!
The Geek Revolution starts here.
Excellent!
Get ready for the #1 hit geek radio show out there.
Well, it is impressive, isn't it?
Because it's time for Dungeon Crawlers Radio.
Let's get ready to rumble!
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
Alright everyone, welcome to another episode of Dungeon Crawlers where we're going to try to do a seance to resummon Scott to the Prime Material Plane.
Hey, Scott, we call upon you.
That didn't work. Oh well.
I think you scared him away instead of...
I'll try harder next time.
Alright.
I apologize for the lack
So with that
of...
said, no Scott. Sorry guys, we tried.
Technically, we are doing a little time stream surfing today, though.
We do, and we do have this round table. So it is the right size for a summoning circle, but maybe we don't have the runes right. I don't know.
Pentagram?
Did you forget the sage again?
Yeah, probably. That or it's the animal shirt that Baron's wearing.
It's for the sacrifice.
Yes.
And I am the terror that flaps in the night.
You are. That is true.
I
So,
have Darkwing Duck on, people, for those who didn't get that reference.
I
you
hope
should
they
be.
got that.
I would hope so. You should be ashamed of yourselves if you didn't.
So, without Scott, we're going to be talking about history through the eyes of superheroes. So this will kind of go along with our leading up to the superhero renaissance that our last show talked about.
Yeah.
Now, superheroes have been around for a long time. They've seen a lot of history. A lot of us haven't seen those, just because, well, let's face it, not all of us have been around since 1940s and 50s when superheroes started showing up in comics. But
And some of us are millennials.
and some of you are millennials, and so on and so forth.
Why would anyone self-proclaim themselves as a millennial?
Because I'm the anti-millennial millennial.
Wow. That's like an oxymoron.
Fight me, bro.
All right. So
So you're the hipster who's hip because you're not a hipster?
Pretty much.
yes.
Wow.
Yes. So
Getting deep
superheroes.
here.
We've kind of hit on this in a lot of shows in the past. Like example, Wonder Woman. You brought that up as an example. How Wonder Woman showed up in this latest movie in World War I.
Which I loved.
And she wasn't fighting the German Nazis we're used to that we've seen in Captain America.
Yeah. She's fighting them before that.
But she's fighting the Ottoman Empire in that. So when Germany was first expanding, during the First World War and that, which was very interesting to see the different dynamic. I really liked how they really focused on that. We didn't see Hitler and all that. We saw, a much softer Germany, in my opinion, but they were still out for conquest.
Well, and here's the thing about it that I also liked is let's be honest, we have all these preconceived notions about World War II when it comes to what happened, who's responsible, who did what, which is, again, why shows like Man in the High Castle are so fun to watch because it gives you that alternate history that shows you maybe, not everything everybody did was correct, but we haven't seen as much with World War I. So it's almost like we got to see a Wonder Woman without those preconceived notions. Like we were almost able to appreciate the character better because we didn't have preconceived notions of how we expect war to be fought and war to be handled as it was in the 40s.
Well, I mean, we have to admit, World War II is this looming giant. I mean, I already said giant, but it is this gigantic behemoth.
And we never should forget it.
And, we haven't forgot it, but there's just so much horrible tragedy that happened. There are so many crazy things. I mean, not a lot of people realize this, or maybe people do, but, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, that is set in World War II.
It is.
The reason the kids are going off into the country is because that's what they did with the kids in London during World War II. They sent them out to the country away from the city because it was being bombarded.
Yeah,
and the country was safer.
Yeah, if you go through London now, you'll still find the damage from a lot of the bombs.
yeah.
They left it there as a remembrance. Look what happened here.
Yeah,
and they still find unexploded ordnance all the time when they're excavating.
Yeah. Miss Peregrine's Children, that book series, that is.
I didn't know that.
So they're set in a time loop, and the time loop is actually in World War II because the home they live in, actually a bomb gets dropped on it.
Oh, that's interesting. I
Yeah,
didn't know
that kind of references back to World War II. So I mean, there's a lot of references. A lot of people kind of look back to that because that's that last big kind of huge tragedy. Yes, we've had a lot of wars since,
but nothing to that
nothing
magnitude.
quite to the extent.
Yes, nothing to
And
that extent.
nothing
They've all
with
kind
the
of been
genocide.
localized.
Yeah.
Then we had the genocide of the Jews and that.
I mean, there were genocides in World War I too, but let's be honest. I think another reason why is, let's be honest, World War II happened when we were starting to learn the value of records and the value of keeping statistics. World War I, yeah, they did it, but not to that extent, and
You're
it's
right.
really hard to know just how many casualties there honestly were.
And with
Well, I
that
mean, there's
said-
been stuff since then too. The Pol Pot regime. I mean, even he tried getting rid of the Pol Pot regime from what country was that?
Oh, are you talking about the Armenian Genocide or the other one?
No. This is in one of the Asian countries. This was back in the 70s.
Kazakhstan? Oh, okay, never
Yeah.
mind.
Korea or
Kazakhstan? It wasn't Kazakhstan. Was
no.
it Georgia?
No, but the Pol Pot, basically what he did is he rounded up anybody with wealth or education and killed them all. And then put everybody else into labor camps.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, genocide and stuff like that has happened since the beginning of time.
I mean,
it really
yes,
has.
but what we're... Yeah.
Babylons. I mean,
The point we're making is World War II was basically the biggest one.
it was
Yes.
the biggest one.
And
It
it's the
definitely
most
was.
recent
And
one,
it's-
I would say, to that magnitude, arguably.
The only one that we really know of that magnitude.
Yeah.
Yes,
think,
I would
within
say
history.
magnitude, yes. I mean, history-wise, I still think it happens. It's still going on.
Oh, it
Oh,
does.
it's
And
still
it
going
will.
on right now.
Yeah,
It's just... Yeah.
But that's the thing is we got a different take. We got a different view upon this, which was great. It was fun.
Well, and
I mean, okay, war's not fun, but it was fun to see that. I mean, especially the old antique airplanes, the fact that their bombs are literally in these little metal things to the side of them. They have to throw them out. It's not like they're being dropped out of the plane, mechanized.
Well, and I'm going to be honest. When I first saw Batman versus Superman, and they show the photograph of Wonder Woman with them, I didn't know enough to pay attention to the years, because at that point I'm like, oh great, they're doing World War II again. Now, I'm not saying that to be disrespectful, but I didn't know they were doing World War I.
I mean, to be fair, it's really hard to tell because they're so very close.
They are.
They really are.
And
that photo didn't show you much.
no.
I mean, really, it didn't.
It showed it was a period,
Yeah.
but it looked like
you knew it was from the past. It was wartime, but you didn't really know which war because because they're so close. I like the fact that they went with World War I and not World War II because we've already seen that with Captain America. That kind of gave them a little bit different distinction. It also puts Wonder Woman in the world of man a little bit longer.
Well, and that means, kind of going back to World War II, that means she's seen both of those wars
Yeah.
if she's been living in
Yeah.
man's world all that time.
Yeah. So at the same time, though, because war is going around, that might lead. Well, is Ares really bad? Did she not destroy Ares? Because we had World War II. I mean, obviously we know she hadn't. I hope she hasn't. So I
It
know,
would kind
it's
of
very
explain
interesting.
why the 20th century was
But-
so messed up. though.
Yeah, I mean, but the history that's the great thing they've been able to do with comics. We saw Captain America in the early years fighting Nazis.
Hello,
Punching Hitler
on the
and
face of his cover.
and they even played into that in the movie. So we've seen that type of thing. Not only that, going in to we can even fast forward into the 80s and stuff like that. We saw there was a lot. They referenced in a lot of the drug problems and stuff that they were experiencing and stuff like that.
Yep.
We had the Gulf War happen in comics. It seems like any kind of notable
And the Cold
historical
War.
piece. Yeah, the Cold War.
Bucky.
That was all that was all brought into that. The if you read some of those back ones, the Russians were the bad guys because of the Cold War.
Yeah, the Red
horrible
Scare
Russians,
was totally going on.
Yeah, and that's where we got Omega Supreme, or not Omega Supreme. That's Transformers. Omega Red. Excuse me.
Okay, yeah.
From X-Men. And so.
Well, and it's super interesting.
How many communistic evil villains have we had?
Oh yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because I want to say it was Joseph McCarthy. He tried to get comics banned for that reason. Is he thought they were commie supporters, but it's like
when really the Red Scare was he's the bad guy, of course.
no.
Yeah. And that's what's kind of been great. I mean, even more recent history, and we've seen it in the movies as well as in the comics. They've talked about Afghanistan, stuff like that. They've also talked about
9/11.
9/11. They've talked about terrorists attacking.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's here and now, and that's what's present in comics and the history. And when people 20, 30 years down the road look at that, they're kind of know what was going on based on those comics.
They're going to come back. They're going to throw in this super old technology called a Blu-ray disc, and they're going to watch the first Iron Man, and they're going to love it, and they're going to think, holy crud. I had no idea Tony Stark was in Afghanistan when he got injured.
Yeah.
Suddenly, there's that piece of history in there, and I
Or
feel
that
like
he was
that
a weapons
always
manufacturer.
Yeah.
that always adds an element of reality, and that kills the fiction feel of it. That just makes you feel, well, I don't know. It gives you hope for that amazing thing in life that's really there, that really can save things when they're really going south.
Superheroes are our light. They're
Well, I mean,
They're a symbol of hope.
They are. I mean, we can look at Batman. Batman had all these amazing gadgets, and looking at like the Adam West Batman, they were very silly and goofy and not very real. Then we fast forward to Christopher Nolan's Batman, and I mean, it was so high tech that he had earpieces and the helmet and the cowl and different types of goggles. He had sonar and stuff like that. All these great gadgets and equipment that now are very miniaturized because of where our technology is.
Yeah.
So it could make sense that he has all these gadgets in his suit.
Yeah.
I mean, when you play, Arkham City or
the utility belt's always been a big thing for Batman.
Asylum.
Arkham Asylum, you have the different visions and stuff like that, and all these gizmos. It's like, it's believable now. It definitely is because of where technology has. But then when you go back, it's like when Superman comes from Krypton and crashes down, and the Kents raise him. Well, back in the 50s, I'm sure it was easy to hide a kid.
Yeah.
A kid showed up on the farm. Well, that happens every day because they just go in the back room, they give birth, and then they go back out in the field to milk a cow.
Yeah, there's nothing documented, stuff like that. It's like, hey, we had a kid. Whew, great.
Yeah.
They'll
pick him up on the next census.
Yeah. Now, if that were to happen, I mean,
where did he come from?
Documentation. Where did he come from?
What's his
social security
We need a
number?
birth certificate.
As much as we don't like Man of Steel, that's how Lois Lane was able to track him down.
See, I actually like that.
I did like that too. That was very well handled.
That was reality. Someone is saving people and doing all these amazing feats. It's being documented. People are saying it. There would be a trail. So that part of Man of Steel, I did like. I know a lot of people are like, that's crap.
How is it crap? It's logical.
There's no way that should have happened. I'm like, it is. It's logical. There's a paper trail.
She's also Lois Lane and an investigative reporter. She's the type that will.
She's got a Pulitzer.
Dig and just dig and
this
just
makes
dig.
sense. It literally makes sense.
See, these are the same people who watch The Martian and go, I can't believe America would leave one of our people on Mars for so long. They're also the same people who see that clip of Steven Spielberg in front of one of the props from Jurassic
the
Park,
dinosaur,
and they
I
get
love
angry
that.
he went Triceratops hunting.
Again, The Martian, completely believable. They'd already been going.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what? We left someone behind? They flipped a Yui. I mean, they really did.
Well, and you also have to remember the
time.
distance. Yeah.
It's not like, oh, hey.
Hit the brakes.
It's not like, oh, we've been.
Take the next exit here.
Yeah. We left someone in Vegas and we hit Mesquite. Oh, crap.
Yeah, there's no brakes.
We got to flip a Yui. That's not that big of a distance, but that's literally like, hey, we left someone in Hong Kong and we're in Denver, Colorado. Oh, crap.
Yeah.
And you have to drive the whole time.
It's going to take some time.
Yeah. So so we're going to have to wait till the Bering Strait freezes, drive over that. Yeah.
Or the bridge gets built if they have their ways.
Yeah, or the underwater subway.
Oh yeah,
that goes across
the channel. They're gonna build a channel over there.
Awesome. That would be awesome.
No, that would not be awesome.
Why?
I'm terrified of underwater. Remember me hiding under the table when the Titanic came out.
Do you know that they have one of those in England that goes from England to France?
Yes,
The channel?
I'm very aware.
Yeah.
I would need a Xanax before. Oh no, I would need a whole bottle of Xanax.
They also have a couple cool tunnels that go under the Thames River as well in London. That's
I mean, there's just
a lot of fun,
but
kind of neat.
It's just these things that I mean, it's interesting. I mean, we can argue about everything. I mean, like Civil War. Spider-Man's supposed to be in his late 30s, established.
In the Civil War?
Well, in
the comics.
In the comic book Civil War.
Okay.
Because the huge point of Civil War is when Spider-Man unmasks himself. Because he spent all this energy not letting anyone know who he is. And on public TV next to Tony Stark, he pulls off his mask, says, he's like, I'm Spider-Man, but in real life, rips his mask off, Peter Parker. You know, that's the end of that issue, and it leads into that because it was part of the Registration Act, and then Captain America's like, no, that's against our civil liberties, and so on and so forth, and then he eventually gets shot in the head at the end of that series.
There goes a civil liberty there.
But that's what made it so powerful.
And even Avengers versus X-Men.
Yeah, but then we get this Civil War, and Spider-Man's just barely becoming Spider-Man, and I didn't feel like it had the same power. I mean, it's still good, but it just didn't have that same.
I did love the old Star Wars movie.
I love the Star Wars reference, but they own Star Wars at that point, and it's going to show up more and more.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I'm wondering how many more cross references we'll get.
Oh, we'll get a lot.
Because
I'm sure we won't get them out of Star Wars, but we'll get them out.
No, I'm sure. I'm wondering how many I'll pick up, and then I'm wondering how many I'll get online, and I'll find so out of the 5 I saw, there's really like 5,000.
Or talking to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll find most of them talking to you guys.
But,
exactly.
I just think that's what's been fantastic. But again, comics is an art form.
Oh,
it's definitely a platform. You can see the same in books. You definitely, even though it doesn't spit out, it doesn't say Nazis or anything like that. You can definitely tell what era a lot of books are written in because of, the way they deal with the interaction of creatures and stuff like that. I mean, Planet of the Apes, the original one, that was during the Cold War and stuff like that. And, at the very end, you have Charlton Heston going, damn you, you blew it up, because there's the Statue of Liberty and everyone went to war and World War III happened or whatever and kaboom, that was at that time the fear. That's of course changed. We have the newer Planet of the Apes, and that's kind of changed to a different dynamic. That instead of the race, nuclear arms race, it was more of a hey, we're trying to find a cure for Alzheimer's and stuff like this. And now this is developed, and now we have this.
It plays into people's fears of the time too.
It does. Look at
even video games.
Terminator.
Okay.
I mean Terminator. For years, everyone's like. It was a cool movie, but we're never going to build an AI that would take over the world.
And yet, look at all the Skynet jokes.
Look at all the AIs. I mean, we had, was it Google or one of these companies had 2 AI things running, and it suddenly decided the English language was not competent, and so it created its own language.
Dang.
We had another, there was another AI, I think it was it was Twitter? Yeah, Twitter had created an AI, and it became racist. It started hating people from Mexico.
Really?
I mean, just because, and it was just because it was.
Was it learned behavior?
It was learning behavior based on people's comments from the elections, and they kicked it on around the time of the elections, and so there was all the talk about the wall and stuff like that, and so it learned this behavior.
It
so
had
it's not
some
surprising.
amazing things now, and so I remember. I mean,
so it's not unbelievable that Terminator could happen or The Matrix could happen.
Yeah, I mean, my parents have I think they have the T. It's not the T1000. They haven't come out with that yet, but I think it's the T200. It's called a Roomba.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The little vacuum cleaner.
Oh yeah, that'll be the first thing to take people out. It's gonna start with their toenails, start ripping out veins and nerve endings from there, and
yeah, no thanks.
That it starts building internal guns.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
little knives.
That's okay. That is the one far-fetched thing that from Transformers that made no sense to me. when they shocked the Nokia telephone and it transformed and it suddenly had guns built into it.
Yeah.
Where were the bullets coming
Oh,
from?
see, what I...
I mean, if
They
it
were
was
the keys.
if it would have been energy projectiles, that would have made
That's
more
different.
sense. But it had little bullets, and I'm like, what?
See, that,
Daniel, you're
that
talking
wasn't the
about
part
Michael
that got
Bay.
me.
I know.
That wasn't the part that got... The part that
Or
got
the
me was
Xbox
how...
that started.
how an object so small can become such an object that's so much bigger. I mean, it goes from being a cell phone to a boombox to... I mean, he becomes several completely different sized things.
You're forgetting about the Allspark.
Well, no. So that guy. Well, he went to a
See,
cell phone
yeah,
because
it does that same problem.
well, that made sense because Megan Fox chopped off his body,
Yeah.
so it was just his head that transformed into the phone because that was the size. But I'm talking. But and then we get when we jump to the second movie and the spark brings things to life. Like it made sense that the giant vending soda machine, when it transformed, it started firing out
soda cans. Yeah.
That made sense.
Yes.
It had projectiles
does.
in it. But the little phone,
Little phone
had
doesn't.
nothing.
No.
Or when the Xbox or the steering wheel, for crying out loud. What? Why?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Effect.
I know. But I guess the point is
Michael
we do
Bay loves effects.
Yeah, we definitely do see what's going on in our world and our climate based on comic books, and media.
Yeah.
I mean, we do. I mean, movies from the 80s definitely talk about the Cold War stuff. We see that all the time.
Well, and the Sam
in the
Raimi
90s.
Spider-Man was bio.
Yeah.
It was or not bioterrorism, but it was our concerns at
Yeah.
the time that they could
Yeah,
create
and,
something that
and
never
then-
should have.
And then we
been
eventually
created.
got to stuff over in Afghanistan and terrorists. Oh, Scott's calling in?
So apparently my summon may have worked.
I don't know. Can you hear him? I can't hear him.
I could have sworn I heard a tiny little voice saying that he was trying to break through.
There's a light barrier. I gotta get through it.
Perhaps I'm just hearing things.
All right. So and that's been the fantastic thing about this medium is we can do that. I mean, there are a few exceptions. Star Wars, we don't really see that a lot because it's its own universe, its own galaxy. Star Trek, we kind of, in some ways, have seen it.
I
Not
would
as
argue
prevalent.
we've seen that. We saw it more with the Next Generation series, especially like First Contact.
Yeah.
That's actually my favorite, with the exception of the Chris Pine movies. First Contact is actually my favorite Star Wars movie because it's so interesting because it was at the end of an apocalyptic Third World War III. And it's interesting because they have James Cromwell's character built up as this hero, as this paragon
And he's
of
not
right.
really
and
that.
he's not. He's a human.
Yeah.
He's flaws and all. But for some reason, he straight up tells Riker. He straight up tells Riker, "You know why I'm doing this? The money,
Yeah.
dollar signs."
Yeah.
And that is so interesting because you also have at the same time Picard on the Enterprise with Cromwell's cohort, who asks, how much is your ship worth? And he's like, "Oh, we don't have money."
Yeah. Well, and see, I've never really been a huge Star Trek fan, but that is definitely, that one movie was very good because they had this dynamic. Because these are the people that have been in the Federation. Federation stood for hundreds of years at this point. They don't have money. No one wants really.
It's a utopic society.
They have it. If you want something, you go to that whatever machine that just it creates it. It's like a super mega 3D printer.
Yeah.
It's there. No matter, you don't want for anything.
And I want one of those, but they don't sell them here yet.
So you just have this society that doesn't
Give it a few
want.
years.
Their whole goal is to help others and explore. And then you go back in time to this period
Which
before
is
the
crazy because
Federation
it's
has
only
started.
like 50 years from now.
And it's war torn. Everyone's obsessed with money, and this guy that everyone has just idolized is a drunken dude that just wants money. The whole reason he's doing it is for money, like you said. But again, that's a fantastic piece because again, it's that whole dynamic of where we're at. I mean, really.
Well, and it's interesting because you could also argue that First Contact was also of its time as well because the 90s was corporate greed. Wall Street was still kind of
But there
going
was
on.
still kind of that war going on
Yeah.
over in Iraq and over Desert Storm. So I mean, it does make sense, but there was that grade and everything, so it was kind of a piece at the time. And
But First Contact does not get enough love.
well, most Star Trek doesn't get a lot of love, except for if you're a Trekker or a Trekkie or whatever they call it now. And it's because, and I think the biggest reason for that is because, Next Gen was great, but the movies kind of lacked. They
With the
there was a
exception of First
disconnect.
Contract.
There was a disconnect. I feel like there was.
I didn't love
Again, that's my
Insurrect-
opinion as an outsider. Maybe the people who
No,
love Star
because
Trek really like it.
Insurrection and Nemesis, same thing.
Like Generations, I felt like was just an excuse to say, okay, we're moving from Kirk and his crew over to these guys.
it was an excuse to kill Kirk.
and
And to bring him back and kill
yeah.
Kirk is basically
and
what
it's
that
like,
was.
Really, I've never really been a fan of William Shatner and his portrayal of Kirk. And I know people love him. Don't get me wrong, you love him, that's awesome. I have not had a joy for Star Trek until Chris Pine and the rest of this group.
Well, Chris Pine is kind of like, he's almost like a Harrison Ford-esque Kirk.
Yeah. Well, he definitely
But
is.
he's still his own character.
There is a huge difference between the two.
And
You know,
he's-
Shakespearean actor,
Yep.
other actor.
Well, and here's the thing also is that Chris Pine, we really see that version of Kirk as he's starting out. So he is a bit more of a renegade, a bit more of a maverick. And let's be honest, the fact that he started a bar fight and that's how he got into Starfleet is like the best thing ever.
Well, it's not that. The thing that really put me off was the way Shatner spoke. You know, space, the final frontier. You know, just
very
that,
dramatic.
Very dramatic. Which,
Very Shakespearean.
Very over the top.
Yeah, I mean, for the time when he did it, it was fantastic. It got people's attention, but I hated it. I really hated it. There's another speaker. I'm not going to say their name, but that was one thing that I always had problems with, is the dramatic pauses and the ups and the downs in the way he spoke. It just drove me nuts.
Well, and granted, inflection will grab your attention, but it also will turn you off.
Yeah, and there's a way to do it, and there's a way not to. Granted, again, that was in the 50s. You know, when that TV series was going on.
I think it was
into
60s.
the 50s into the 60s.
No? Just 60s.
60s.
But you know what I really
58,
loved?
59, but I could be
60.
wrong. Again, not a Star Trek fan.
I remember. It came out in 66. It came out the year my mother was born. Sorry, Mom, I just said your age on the air. But you know what I really loved about this last Star Trek movie that I finally just saw? I really loved the end monologue where it was the entire crew. I thought that was really fun because it showed you that they had all almost been out there together and learning together. So I really liked that at the end of this last movie.
Yeah, I'm just pulling the date up. I'm sure you are correct. Yep, 66 through 69.
Right.
Awesome. Again, not a Star Trek
I'm
fan.
good for Jeopardy.
Yeah, that is my only 1 weak spot is Star Trek.
I'm okay, but I'm not great.
Yeah. No, I just, and again, even Star Trek, for its time, was a great period piece, and there was a lot of
I
interesting
see a
stuff
red
going
shirt. Is he not coming out? Maybe you're gonna join.
I
Maybe you're
am
gonna
wearing a
join
red shirt.
Scott.
on. Yeah, but it has animal on it, and that the animal spirit will defend him. Yeah.
Or maybe the terror that flops in the night. Well,
Yeah.
jury's out.
So I just think it's fantastic that we can see history play out through comics,
Well,
through TV, and these other geek things.
Back to Star Trek. You know, it's really interesting because it was going on during the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah.
And you can see
there
a
is
lot of that.
with the Klingons, with the Vulcans,
the Romulans.
and so again, that's
And-
what's so fantastic about this stuff. You do see history in the time period that
Well,
these
and
things
Star
were
Trek
created.
broke barriers in more ways than one because did you know it had the first mixed race kiss on TV
Yeah.
between I mean, that's really
With Uhura?
cool. Uhura,
Yeah.
which is really cool. And it's one of those things where you don't think of Star Trek as that, but when you look at what Star Trek is supposed to be, it's supposed to be that utopic society. There's no barriers.
Yeah. Well,
Not like what we have now.
the one interesting piece of trivia is of who greenlit and made Star Trek happen. Do you know who it is?
Lucille Ball.
Yep.
Aren't you proud of me?
The original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she loved the idea, and she fought for it.
Good for her.
And if it wasn't for her, it wouldn't have happened because they were ready to cancel it and dump it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny because I grew up watching her with my
Oh, yeah.
mom. We'd eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
I
tuna
love
fish.
Lucy. I mean,
And watch-
you
I
see
love
her
Lucy, yeah.
as she is, but she was a powerhouse.
Oh, she really was
And
amazing.
she fought for what she believed in.
Yeah.
She was funny too.
Yeah.
Well, and the
she's
crazy
a really
when-
smart lady.
And let's be honest, she had a very public divorce from Desi.
Oh, yeah.
But I wouldn't say she came out smelling like a rose, but she was like one of the first people who actually almost continued her career even after
him.
Yeah, even after him.
And even into her older years, there's still kind of that thing that, as women get older, they're acting, the job offers start diminishing, where men, they just keep coming.
Yeah.
But there have been some few that have been able to break through that. I mean, Betty White, holy crap.
Oh yeah.
Meryl Streep.
I mean, she
She's still
started
growing strong,
back
too.
in the day when Liz Taylor was young,
Yeah.
and she's still acting. I mean,
still
how
going
many
strong.
how many things have we seen Betty White in? Quite a few. Maggie Smith,
Meryl Streep.
Oh,
Meryl
yep.
Streep. There's still quite a few. I'm
Although,
sure the
you know who
offers
my woman
are
crush is?
less.
Helen Mirren.
Oh wow, yes. Again, she even just showed up in the latest Fast and Furious movie. I mean, she was in Red 1 and 2. She's been in quite a bit.
Yeah.
She's definitely a nonsense lady, but an amazing actress, nonetheless.
And she's a role model because she could care less about
Oh, yeah.
her age and everything.
Yeah.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, I know there's so much more we could have talked about. I know someone that I would have loved to have on the show to talk about this, Andrew Bowman. He's actually
Maybe we'll have to have a sequel.
We may have to. He's a professor. He actually has a PhD in superheroes.
I want one.
So I may have to talk to him to have him come on, or if he's going to be at Salt Lake Comic Con, we'll have to have a sit-down discussion with him.
That'd be a good one.
But what are your thoughts about superheroes through the history? I think some superheroes have improved, some have gotten better, while others have not been so great.
Some have not aged well.
I do.
You know what I
think,
could argue about that, though, before we sign off, is I could argue that Captain America, he easily could have stayed stagnant and just been the paragon of virtue that he was in the 40s, but they have adapted him so well for modern times.
They've also done some stuff that have been really bad, like the latest, he's part of Hydra.
We don't speak of that!
But that's because of the...
Is that a spoiler alert?
That's because of the time. It's been over a year.
I need to catch up. Then.
Yeah, Red Skull was able to manipulate time and rewrite time. I think it's with one of the Infinity Stones.
Agent Carter does not approve.
And made Steve Rogers a sleeper agent for Hydra.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I think ruined the character in my opinion.
So
they could have done something completely different and better, but I understand what they were trying for.
does
we
that mean
move on?
Bucky's really a good guy then?
I don't know.
Can we move
But,
on?
yeah, we'll move on.
Pretend it doesn't exist.
Because these are all great ideas,
Yeah.
and we just need feedback now.
Yeah, so give us your feedback, give us your ideas. We always want it. And with that said, maybe Scott will
craving it.
escape, and we will actually be able to summon him properly. With
I'm
that said, we're out of here.
Yeah. Animal!
Are you a fan of Dungeon Crawlers? Then it's time for you to level up your experience. Download our episodes that are released every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And not only that, we want to hear from you. We want to know who you want to hear on the show, what author, what celebrity, what game designers you want to hear. Not only that, we also want to hear what you like about the show. So, with that said, please reach out to info@dungeoncrawlersradio.com, email us on Twitter or Facebook, and let us know what you want to hear on this show, because we want it to be as much of your show as it is ours. So, with that said, we're out of here, and we'll catch you next time.